Now, I also want to point out, and what I think is important to all of you here to understand, is this coming election is important. It's important for us here in Hawaii. We have a lot of opportunities to change the direction of our state government, but also nationally. Any of you following the national press will know that the control of the U.S. Congress hangs in the balance right now. It's very, very close as to whether or not the Republicans may or may not take control of the U.S. House. Those, like myself, who want to restrain government spending, who believe that we are spending too much, that government is penetrating too much into people's lives, very excited about the prospect of being able to capture control of the House of Representatives. But I also want to point out to all of you here, because I know this is an organization of entrepreneurs and small business owners. Oftentimes, you don't think of the perspective of what the other side sees. What does the majority in the U.S. Congress, the current majority in Congress, see? How do they view this upcoming election? You know, talking to some of my colleagues, my Democrat colleagues in the U.S. Congress, they too are actually very excited about this upcoming election. And it sounds a little counterintuitive. Why would they be excited with the Republicans pushing so hard, and the Republicans possibly going to be able to gain control of the U.S. Congress? Well, if you're a Democrat member of the U.S. Congress, the perspective that you see is, well, in the past 2 years, the federal government, well, we've gone out and we've taken over the healthcare industry. We've gone out, we've taken over the financial services industry. We've gone out and did cash for clunkers and took over General Motors. Oh, and we took over Chrysler. Oh, we spent $860 billion on a stimulus package that has seen unemployment go up. We did another mini stimulus package for state and federal governments who all can consume. We've nearly doubled the size of the national debt. We have expanded the federal government in the last 2 years by a greater amount since the Franklin Roosevelt administration. After doing all of that expansion, after spending all of that money, after penetrating and taking over all of those sectors of the American economy, after the November 2nd election, from the perspective of a majority Democrat and those who want to see more government spending, their viewpoint is, after we have done all of that, if the American people still leave us in charge, it must mean the American people like what they're seeing. They like this massive expansion of government. They support the penetration of government into more and more sectors. And if we remain and retain control, it must mean the American people have given us a validation of these policies, and it is a green light to take over more sectors of the economy, expand the government by even more. And all of the spending you see is just going to be chump change, because we really can fundamentally alter the dynamic and nature of our economy around government instead of entrepreneurship. That's why the stakes of this upcoming election are so incredibly high for all of us here. Not just because we can change control of the Congress, but also because if we don't change control of the Congress, this current philosophy that you're seeing in the Congress today is going to be solidified. And we really, what we have seen, what we have come to enjoy, I believe, of free market and entrepreneurship will get upended and turned on its head. So ladies and gentlemen, I do want to ask all of you, please make sure you are engaged in this upcoming election. Please make sure you become a participant. Don't stand on the sidelines with this upcoming election. We have an amazing nation. We have to make sure that we save it. Now, before I close, I want to share also with all of you here what I remember, what I think about every single day that I have this incredible privilege of walking on the floor of the U.S. House of Representatives. I am so passionate about this, and I care so deeply about this because I believe we are an amazing nation. I believe in the uniqueness of the American people. This is something worth fighting for. You know, folks, the day I took the oath of office, the day I raised my hand to become a United States Congressman, it was an incredible whirlwind day for me. My wife and myself, you know, we had won this special election on Saturday night, Saturday, May 22nd. The next day, Sunday, we spent the whole day. We did a press conference with the news media. We talked to a whole bunch of our supporters and volunteers. It was another very, very long day after a very, very long night. The next day, Monday, some of you know I was up early at 1 o'clock in the morning talking to the national news media. I did a number of live interviews. I talked to Fox, CNN, so on and so forth. And the reason I was up at 1 o'clock in the morning Hawaii time is because that's 7 a.m. Eastern time. In order to make the morning shows on the East Coast, you got to be up at 1 o'clock. I stayed up the whole morning because at 5 a.m. I was doing live interviews with KHON and KITV and Hawaii News Now. And I still, at 6 a.m., still was out there on Kalani and Only Highway sign waving to say thank you to everybody. And by 8 a.m. I was at the Honolulu City Council, and I had to resign my seat, clean out an office that I had been in for 7 years, explain to my staff what I was doing. By 12 o'clock that Monday, I was driving down to my children's schools, explaining to my kids' teachers that Dad's going to pull the kids out of school about a week early. Keeping in mind here that that Friday before, when my kids went home from school, things were still normal. Everything in the world had upended by that Monday morning when I had to pick up my kids. 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm on an airplane, 12-hour airplane flight, 6-hour time zone change. I'm in Washington, D.C. Tuesday morning. I walked on the floor of the House of Representatives, and for the record, I've been to Washington, D.C. About half a dozen times before this, but I had never been on the floor of the House of Representatives, never been to the House ever before in my life. I literally walked off the airplane, I brushed my teeth at the Dulles airport, changed into a business suit, picked my girls up, and they were all groggy and completely, jet lagged, and put them in a nice dress. Walk them on the floor of the U.S. House of Representatives, and I'm not joking here. I was given 30 seconds, and I took the oath of office and became a congressman. And then immediately after taking the oath of office, I then was given notice that I was going to give my inaugural address. And they, no joke, gave me 1 minute to prepare for it. And I went straight. So if any of you saw my inaugural address as a congressman, you could see the bags under my eyes. And you probably saw my 7-year-old daughter sitting next to me, a little drowsy and droopy, but that explains why. It was a whirlwind experience. But no, the more important thing I want to convey to all of you, and what I really want all of you to understand is why this is all so important, why this is all worth fighting for is, you know what, every single day I walk on the floor of the House of Representatives, I remember the day I was sworn in. The day I was sworn in, some of you may know, my mother was born and raised in Bangkok, Thailand. My mother had an opportunity to come to the United States when our nation was engaged in Southeast Asia through some very, very difficult times in Vietnam. The day I got sworn in, my relatives, most of my first cousins, my uncles, my aunties on my mother's side of the family still continue to live in Bangkok, Thailand. My cousins, my uncles, my aunties were watching me on cspan.org take the oath of office. Any of you who have been following current events and know what has happened in Thailand earlier this year, you will know that Thailand has gone through some extraordinarily difficult times. Earlier this year, what had happened was there was 2 political factions, the so-called red shirts and the so-called yellow shirts. And I'm not going to go into details of their political differences, but 2 major political factions, kind of sort of like the Republicans and Democrats in Thailand, got into a dispute. The way the dispute eventually devolved into was one of the factions decided to barricade themselves, get a bunch of used cars, tires, put up barricades in the center, in the heart of downtown Bangkok. The only way to analogize it is imagine here if Bishop Street and Ala Moana Shopping Center got completely barricaded. Their objective was to shut down commerce in the heart of central Bangkok. The other faction didn't like that. What they got then, in order to try and fight back, they got a sharpshooter, put it on the top of one of the tall buildings, put a bullet through the head of the opposing faction. That did not, however, unfortunately, solve the differences. Eventually, in order to resolve the differences, the Thai Army got involved. Having served as an officer in the United States Army Reserve, I have to say, for me as an Army officer, it would be an utterly fantastical thought. I mean, for me, it's something that I couldn't even fathom as a military officer, to give an instruction to soldiers under my command to open fire on unarmed civilians you're supposed to serve and protect. But that's exactly what the Thai Army did. They were given instructions to clear out the streets, resolve these differences, and tell everybody to go home. They sent the tanks in to clear out the barricades. They told everybody to go home. And if you didn't go home, guess what? You got a bullet put through you. Nearly 100 people were put to death in order to fix and resolve these political differences in Bangkok, Thailand. The day I took the oath of office to be a member of the United States Congress, my first cousins My uncles, my aunties were watching. Now, my cousins, my uncles, my aunts, physically, they look a lot like me. In a lot of ways, their upbringing was very similar to mine. I mean, they had a middle-class upbringing. As a young child, they visited myself and my brother and my mom here in Hawaii over summers numerous times. I visited them in Bangkok numerous times. But on the day I took the oath of office, my uncles, my aunts, my first cousins, they could literally see smoke from those burning tires and political strife in the air. They could literally feel the vibration of tanks rolling over civilian pavement, seeking to resolve a political difference. They could literally see blood in the streets right outside their houses. And they could literally smell gunpowder in the air used to fix a political difference. At the exact same time as my relatives were experiencing and seeing all of this live, they also saw me raise my hand with my daughter holding the Bible, with my left hand on the Bible, my right hand raised, take the oath of office to be one of the maker of laws of the most powerful nation on earth. You want to know why it's so important? This is why it's so important, and this is what I never, ever forget. Every day I walk on the Congress's floor, I know how extraordinary this experience is, and I know how important it all is. I know in my heart of hearts, I have been given something extraordinarily precious, something given to very, very few individuals on planet Earth. It is a gift that my mother and my father were only given after they proved it themselves and they earned it. It is a gift that I was given by sheer, raw, dumb luck on the day I was born. And that gift is American citizenship. It is a gift that I know I have that allows me to stand in front of my fellow American citizens and ask them for the privilege to write the laws of the land on their behalf for the world's most powerful nation. Ladies and gentlemen, every day I go on the floor of the House of Representatives, I know all of you have given me an extraordinary trust. I know I have to earn that trust every single day. And I know it is a trust worth fighting for because we have a unique nation worth preserving. With that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very, very much for your time. Sam, can I take some questions?